G'day punters, thanks for tuning in. So today I'm bringing you a review of Hayate. Now Hayate is of course not new to the game, but it's had a significant buff with this patch, and it needed a buff. I mean, ever since this ship came out a few years ago, I think if memory serves me right, you could buy it for about 1 million free XP. I could be wrong on that. I am old, I forget stuff, but I think it was 1 million free XP back in the day. It's been underwhelming because you could never really specialize in a particular role that it was good at. I mean, you could, but you'd sort of cost yourself in other areas. And the reason I say that is because the thing that made this ship unique, I guess, when it came out is that the guns are actually quite effective. The turret rotation's good, the firing rate was good, and if you spec'd into guns, you could make this a pretty nasty gunboat because it had high alpha guns that you could get a reload down to sort of 4 seconds, I think was the base. The base is now 3.7 seconds, so you don't really need to spec your captain into guns anymore. Because if you did spec your captain into guns, it meant your torpedoes suffered. Like you'd have a 2.5 minute torpedo reload, and that is painful. So that's the first buff. So you can now sort of specialise this as a torpedo boat with good guns. But the other buff is in the equipment. Instead of having to choose between smoke and the torpedo reload booster, you have both, and that is a massive buff. That means 3 smoke screens give you the ability to disengage when you need to, or the ability to farm from smoke, all those good things that smoke do. And the torpedo reload booster means that even though you've only got 2 sets of tubes, which do admittedly take almost 2 minutes to reload, even if you're spec for torpedoes, you've got another set ready to go like 5 seconds later. And it's worth noting too, like I said, the reloads, where is it now? Torpedo reload is 117 seconds if you spec for it. Now, when I say spec for it, I of course mean have the captain spec for it. And with this particular captain, you can see that means that particular skill there, which is fill the tubes, which reduces your torpedo tube reload time by 10%. And then the other thing to do, of course, if you go to the equipment, is to take the slot 6, which is torpedo tube modification 2, to bring your torpedo tube reload time down by a further 15%. So doing that brings you down to 117 second reload, which is, let's just say, slightly better than 2 minutes. Now the torpedo reload booster comes up every 228 seconds. So that's about 3.5 minutes. So basically, if you're spamming torpedoes like as soon as they're reloaded, for every second set of torps you fire, you're going to have a reload booster ready to go. So that's 20 12-kilometer Shimakaze torps that do about 23,000 damage each. That is a lot of hitting power. Being able to have the smoke is hugely advantageous because the other big problem with this ship is its concealment is quite poor with a 6.1 kilometer concealment. Now I say poor, alright, it's not poor, but it's poor against other torpedo boats. Where you compare it to like a Gearing, which I think with unique upgrade gets down to like 5.6, if memory serves me right. Shimmer down to like 5.7 or 8. So it does get spotted by those destroyers before it can spot them. However, having that smoke allows you to disengage, and those great guns, if you do manage to catch one by surprise, mean you can really make a meal of those ships at close quarters. So they're the buffs. I guess the key question is it any good? Well, I've had one game in it since the buff, and I'm about to show you that game now. So let's go to that and see what you think. Alright, so now that we're underway, it's probably the first thing I do in a game like this is just assess what my threats are. So we've got 2 DDs in the enemy team, an Akazuki and a Shimakaze. The Akazuki, believe it or not, I believe I can take in a one-on-one fight. But like I said just a moment ago, I don't believe there really is such a thing as a one-on-one fight. Michelangelo, Tier 9 cruiser, isn't the strongest, but it does have lethal secondary, so I've got to be very aware of that. Goodenloo, not so worried about. Smolensk, not so much. San Martin, of course, with its radar and its armor-piercing shells. I don't want to be giving that anything to shoot at because those AP shells can wreak havoc on my little DD. Not so much if I can bow in or stern in on him. You can obviously mitigate a lot of damage by doing that because the radar is reasonably short duration. But there is a few BBs that I can get chunked into here. Bismarck, Massachusetts, Republic, Montana, Yamato. The really impressive thing there is there's only one battleship with hydroacoustic search, which really suits me well. Now there is an enemy Kaga, which is coming my way. He happens to be in my clan. I can assure you this was not a setup. And he's going to spot me, but I'm just going to smoke up so I don't get too much focus from the ships south of my position. And he's obviously going to try and drop me, so we'll just make sure we avoid that drop as well whilst we wait for this buff to land on us. Alright, so managed to narrowly avoid that. Buff should be landing in a few seconds. Of course, this is an arms race game. And the aircraft are dealt with. Alright, so we've got the reload buff. The other reload buff down south will probably get collected in due course. Yeah, so we know where the enemy DD is. We know it's not the Shimakaze, so it's got to be the Akazuki that's south of our position. Now, I'm seeing San Martin, Goodaloo, Montana, Bismarck, sort of south of my spotting. So I'd probably want to focus on getting the Montana down. So I'm going to go out to a wide flank here. I'd rather not get into a gunfight with the Akazuki when he's got that sort of backup. You can see my teammates are being pretty cautious, which I understand early game. So I'm not going to make too much of a deal of it. But obviously we've got radio location, so we can see where the Akazuki is relative to our position, and it looks like he's staying pretty central, sort of near where that damage buff is going to populate. So with our 12k range, I'm just going to try and stay undetected and get into a sort of a spot here where I can make this Montana pay. He is sort of kiting out, so I'm not going to launch torps just yet. I want to try and keep that San Martin spotted as well, so he gets as much focus as possible. The Vermont and Kerr first are the ships I really need to do damage to him. And you can see that they are getting more buffs than us, and we've already lost our first DD, well, our other DD I should say, in the Kigero. Montana is making a big turn, so I think I'm in a position here where I can put some torps in front of him, and he's probably going to come about to get his guns into play and eat a couple. I'll do a pretty wide spread. I do have a reload boost, so if he accelerates and turns in more, I should be able to get 2 or 3 hits. Realistically, all I'm trying to do here is force a damage control, because these torps are very, very likely to cause a flood if I hit him. Going for those early dev strikes where you're putting all torps down the same white line is very low percentage that's actually going to work for you. So we're just trying to make it so that there's one less BB to focus my cruisers, which are trying to support me. I've got 3 up there in the Hindenburg, Napoli and Azau, so knowing that means the Akazuki can't really engage me without taking some pretty bad hits. And it looks like this Montana is going to oblige me by driving straight into my torpedoes. I do appreciate that. With any luck, I'll get a few here. And I've used my reload booster, so I've got another set of torps. I was a bit unlucky there, only to get 2, to be honest. So I'm just going to hold off again. He's got no spotting other than the San Martin that I can ascertain. And I reckon he's going to make a hard turn towards the border here. So I'm just going to wait for him to commit to it. And then I'll put a spread out. Yeah, he's committing all right. So torps away. We're down to a minute 35 reload. So we've got that reload buff from arms race, that's nice. He's showing a lot of side here, so he's probably going to eat a bit of damage from my support ships as well. And whilst he's doing that, I'm going to try and get in a position to get the buff in the middle. Oh, and there's the Akazuki. So he clearly doesn't have Concealment Expert because I've outspotted him, so that's a bit weird, but anyway. I'm just going to let him engage me, and oh, we see we've got a bunch of torps there, 4 torps, 2 floods on the Montana, and it's a flood that looks like it's sticking. So, and sure enough, I get the dev strike for that. So Montana down. We have lost a cruiser in the Sejong and a DD, so I'm pretty much our only light ship left in our team. I'm just going to try and keep this Goodaloo spotted so that the boys can wail on him for a bit. Tempting as it is to open fire. I didn't stay in my smoke there because I figure it's a torpedo magnet for the Akazuki. So I'm just going to try and stay in a position here where I can engage that Akazuki if he does pop out of his smoke. And obligingly, the Goodaloo is getting absolutely hammered. Looks like the Vermont got a nice hit on him then. So I should be able to keep him spotted while I get this buff and get him pulled off the map. So just clocking up some nice spotting damage here as well. And we're up to 106,000 damage, all of which was thanks to the Montana. Now you notice the gun turret rotation is also much better than in a Shimakaze. So same sort of alpha, so really damaging guns, but they do turn actually quite handily. And that's why I feel pretty confident engaging into a gunfight with this ship. Alright, so Gudenlu is down. That means my next target, if it's not the Akazuki, if he doesn't come to engage me, it's going to be the Yamato. Torpedoes are loaded. Reload booster will be up in a minute. So this is a really good opportunity again to force the use of a damage control and then get the flooding in on this guy. So I do a pretty tight spot, pretty tight volley, just so I can try to get as many torps as possible because he is bow in. A good result would probably be 2 torpedoes, force that damage control, and I'll have reload booster up in about 30 seconds. Looks like you're starting to make a turn here, but I reckon it'll be a bit too little too late because I have launched these from pretty good range and I have actually drifted into detection range like a bit of a dope. So I do get spotted, albeit briefly, and our GK has just gone down. But we do get 2 torps and 2 floods, so that has forced, it hasn't forced a damage control. So he's burning and flooding. So I'm getting a nice amount of damage ticking up here. We just see how long he lets that go. Alright, reload booster away. I think it'd be kind of silly to use both racks here because he's quite low on HP. I could probably get away with not using any. So I'll just drop the 1. And hopefully that'll finish him off and I can head towards the middle because the cap is being, well, capped by the Akazuki. Oh no, the Shimakaze. So we've got the Shima and the Akazuki on this flank now, just to double my problems. And this Yamato looks like he's going to eat some torpedoes. Lexington's going to pile on as well. So I think his days are numbered. So once he's dead, I'll just speed forward a little bit because it's going to take me a minute or 2 to get into the cap area. Yeah, he's cooked. Alright, so let's zip over to the centre here. So now obviously our left flank has collapsed. The Ohio's in full retreat, as is the Yumahara. We've got a Michelangelo and a Smolensk in the volcano, and 2 DDs, a San Martin with his radar, and a Bismarck, all in the middle, trying to cap that into circle. If we let him cap that, of course, being the arms race, this is going to be over very quickly. So I can't let that happen. So now I'm in the centre cap, and my next goal here is to try and put some torps into that ring of fire. We do lose a Napoli, but he gets the Bismarck for his trouble, which is a good out. That means it's a Hydra I don't have to contend with. If I put some torps through into that ring of fire, we might actually score some hits. I mean, there's smoke over there. And the smoke could belong to the Michelangelo, could belong to a DD. I'm not really sure. So we'll just pump a bunch through there. Could be the Smolensk even. And I'm not going to bother engaging the Akazuki with guns just yet. Just want to keep him spotted while he's shooting so that our team can get stuck into him. We do lose our Hindenburg, who just sort of overcommitted, but Aki takes a big hit. Karga's in an interesting position there. He's probably safe from being prosecuted, I guess. Let's just watch how these torps go. I see the Shimakaze in the middle there. He's very unlikely to eat torpedoes the angle that he's going. I think he's going to try and go wide and go for our CV. Haven't seen the Smolensk for a while though, so with any luck, we might catch him out in here. Okay, there's the Akazuki, so I can engage him now. Oh, and I found the Smolensk. How good's that? Dev strike too, wow. These torpedoes hit hard. Alright, so we're going to engage the Akazuki with guns. I'm full HP, he's at about 2/3. I've got a smoke up my sleeve, which I'll probably use here. I probably didn't need to because he's smoked, but anyway, never mind. And Akazuki gets smashed by the Vermont. So, like I was saying, it's less about what you can do one-on-one against a gunboat and more about what you can do to help your team prosecute that gunboat. Torpedo reload is up, but I have been radared. Now, you remember I was talking about staying, sort of minimising the angle that something like a San Martin can engage you with? He's got pretty punishing AP, but if I don't show him any side, the damage he can do is pretty minimal over the span of his, 30-second radar? So, I'll just, evade, wiggle my bum a little bit, and I don't lose a heap of hit points here. You see even bouncing some shells there. I think that maybe cost me 2,000 hit points, so not the end of the world. And we are getting obviously a buff from a heal anyway, so that's going to help my case. So with that done, we've got faced with the Michelangelo and the San Martin. So I'm going to keep the San Martin spotted as much as I can so their teammates can hit him. He's a significant threat, and we'll try and catch some buffs as well before going to probably chase down the Shimakaze so that Lexington doesn't get caught out by him. And this is the DD fight I wanted to show you, because that Shimmer hasn't taken a heap of damage, if any. Like he's showing on the team lineup as being full HP. I'm at half HP. So let's just keep that in mind for when I do actually engage him. I know he's on a gunboat. I'm not saying he is. But it's still a big difference in hit point. Now the Michelangelo, I can't really let him come out and engage me here. As much as I want to hold my torpedoes, I'm in his hydro range. So his temptation would be to come out and engage me with secondaries, and he could really hurt me. So I'm just going to put some torpedoes out, and I'm going to space them out. I know he'll see them with hydro, but that's the whole point. That means that's going to stop him from coming out and engaging me, I hope. And I think I can outrange his hydro here anyway. Meanwhile, San Martin is close to death, and I've gone dark. So now I'm down to 7,500 hit points against what is, I believe, still a full hit point Shimakaze. Up to 213,000 damage as well from 11 torpedo strikes, and the San Martin is down. Alright, so we've pulled this game back pretty nicely with 6 ships versus their 3 now. And here's the Shimakaze. So there he is. He's on 21,000 hit points. I'm on 7,700 hit points. He is engaging with guns, so let's get stuck into this and see what happens. Get my high caliber award. Look at the alpha damage we're doing to this guy. Absolutely butchering him. This thing just hurts. And down goes the Shimmer, and we managed to juke a few shots and survive that engagement. Oof, that was close. Down to 780 hit points. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the game. The Michelangelo gets chased off. The Republic gets chased to the end of the game and dies. We get the center cap and get through the victory. Let's just skip through to the end of the scorecards and see how it all finished up for me. Alright, so 1.1 million credits earned. Not bad going, is it? 23,000 XP, almost 5,000 free XP, 2 dev strikes, a high caliber award, 11 torpedo hits, 53 shell hits for 232,000 damage. Now it is arms race, so I know that's a bit of an artificial buff, but it doesn't. I don't think it made a huge difference that game. Most of this damage was from obviously alpha and from flooding, and obviously from those 11 torp hits, 7 floods. Very nice going. With the team score, top the scoreboard there with just under 3,200 base XP, so a pretty solid game. Ably supported by the Ohio with 2,800 and the Vermont with 2,400. They played really good BB roles in that game. Go to the detailed report, and this is where the damage was done. Montana took 6 torpedoes in total, 4 floods for 10,000 damage. The Yamato took 4 torpedoes in total for 50k and 2 floodings for 24,000 damage. So floodings still hurt. The Smolensk only took 1 torpedo, 20,901 damage. He's just got almost 0 torpedo mitigation, so that really did some damage. And the Shimakaze, we hit him with 28 shells and did, well, basically almost all of his HP in that exchange. Even the Akazuki, 20 shells for 15k. You can't tell me that doesn't hurt. Go to the credits and XP. Made a pretty good earn out of that with 1 million credits in total as a profit. That's not bad going anytime you can make 1 million credits. So there you go, guys. That is the new and improved Hayate. If you don't have it, I'd certainly recommend getting it. It's got one of the coolest camos in the game in the lacquer camo. It is 8,000 doubloons. I know it's outrageously expensive, but it is sexy as fuck. Hope you enjoyed that video. Thanks for tuning in once again. Take care.